Hi guys, I'm very excited to be back with the Boomerang podcast. So we are finally rolling. And today I'm very excited to have a very special guest, Erica Jennings, with us. Erica is the lead singer at a band called Skamp. Skamp gave really voice to the youth of the post-independent Lithuania. That's the time when I was also growing up. And they were really represented the worldly, cosmopolitan, independent young person who is going after their dreams and is not sticking to any rules or categories that the society is imposing to us. So I guess you would understand why I like them. And for me, they really represented this kind of entrance into authentic life and to fulfilling life. And I was very excited that I had the opportunity to work with them at the time. So we are kind of reconnected with Erica after many years. And we've created the avatar with her for the Boomerang game. And that represents courage. So the avatars in the Boomerang game kind of our companions. When we play the game, they're here to teach us about a particular superpower that activates courage. So today we're going to talk with Erica exactly about that, and she'll share with you what she's learned over the years of being a singer, performer, and making Skamp to be the famous band that they are. So let's dive in. So the Boomerang game is all about encouraging people to live authentic, fulfilling lives. And it's centered around the idea of blooming inside out, right? Hence we have the title of Boomerang game, which is when we are doing what we love in life, we radiate inside out, and that attracts all the good things that life has. So what is blooming for you, Erica?
We bloom, in our sort of late teens, we come into the, our young womanhood. And this is another type of bloom. It's beautiful and everything. And then later, it's like different levels. It's not just like we don't bloom just once. We bloom actually quite a few times, I believe. And we shed many skins as we go along. And I think it's nice to, when we recognize that and we're okay with that and we embrace it, actually. Because a lot of the things that we find difficult to deal with are societal norms that that someone decided is normal, and they've put this on us. As on human beings. And so I think, when you start to question everything and like, well, who said, this is the case? And why is it so? And, then you can start to really pick and choose what works for you.
So in the Boomerang game, your avatar, Riona, represents courage. Can you share with us what is courage for you personally?
Also owning your truth and meaning, being able to really look at yourself and acknowledge everything about yourself, meaning the good in you, being able to take a compliment, but then at the same time being able to see the things that need improving, the flaws that we have, the things we need to work on, being able to look at them and say, yeah, or owning your mistakes is also for me, a very big sign of courage. Yeah, I fucked up. It's my mistake. And I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to move forward, as opposed to, beating yourself up about it. We're all human beings. And, there's so many different levels of courage, that but one of the main things I think is really being true to yourself, being who you really are. And And that can come in different forms for different people, because some people might say, well, then you need to show sort of all sides of yourself to everyone. And for me, that's not about being true to myself, because I only let a few people see all sides of me, and I'm fine with that. And that doesn't mean that I'm hiding or something. I choose to keep parts of myself and my life private, because I think they're precious and they're not for everyone. And I also think that, it doesn't mean that you're not brave. Also, I think when I said earlier that sometimes I didn't realize when I was being courageous, because there's specific things that really sort of injustice. When I see injustice in front of me, I find it very difficult not to say something or do something. It's like a switch goes on in me. And so I think that, and then when I look back on what happened, I'm like, oh my goodness,
So when we are living the dream, or we are creating our kind of dream project, there are always ups and downs, right? So we have the highs, we have the lows. And when we are in those lows and the dips, sometimes feels like the world has ended and there's no way out and this is it. So how do you live through those experiences that kind of put us in these lows? How do you swim out of that?
Hard as it may be, we have to try and find something good in it. Even if you could say there cannot be possibly anything good that happened from this thing that happened to me. Well, maybe the thing that happened was the lesson that you learned. There's always a lesson to be learned in everything. And I think that this is really important, like psychologically, to help us deal with painful experiences. It's like, well, yeah. So you grow from it, because growth, if you look at any plant or anything that grows, hurts. It's painful. Growth is painful most of the time, whether it's working out in the gym and then you feel dead the next day, you can't walk around normally, or if it's like, having a baby or, whatever. Those things hurt. And stagnation, for me, it's like growth hurts, but stagnation kills. It's just stagnation. You're like still water. You're not flowing. You're not going anywhere. It's just like, it kills you in the end. So better, you're like having a tough time and you're out of your comfort zone, but you're growing, and you'll still thrive in that situation. Sort of playing it safe and sort of staying where you are.
In order to bring something new into the world, or just to always kind of be fresh and innovative, we always have to be stepping out of our comfort zone and slightly be on that edge. That's when growth really happens. Can you share with us your experience of stepping out of the comfort zone and really overcoming the fear? Because that's what's really kind of stops us, right? That's what most people don't overcome in order to move forwards and experience that bliss that the stepping out brings us.
Uncomfortable. Stepping out of your comfort zone is terrifying. It is. But that's the other thing. It's like when people don't want to think about the terror or the fear, then what happens? Then you don't recognize it, then you don't do it. Whereas if you say, well, shit, I'm terrified. I'm really scared about this jump. Let's call it a jump. But you know what? It's like if you acknowledge that you're scared, because fear is not logical at all. So, but if you acknowledge it and you sort of look it in the eye and you're like, yeah, it's scary. And then you think about that for a while, and then, it starts to get less scary. And then you face it and you do it scared. Like, if you're scared, do it anyway. Just do it. Like, even if you're scared at the time. And I think another thing which is really, really cool and which is really, really important, and we have to really instill, especially in girls, is, why I say especially in girls, to give people context, is that statistically, they've done a lot of studies on this, where, let's say in math or in science, there's like problems that need solving. Boys will, while they're solving the problems, they'll ask questions, or they won't mind if a teacher sees them, go through the problem and that they've made a mistake or whatever. The girls will very rarely, they will, keep going at it until they're 99% sure that they've got it right. And then they'll show it. And this is social conditioning. So it's super important that we stop teaching perfection to girls. This doesn't exist. And, again, we learn through failing, basically. We learn through making mistakes, and it's fine. It's like, oh, well, I think it's this. And, we teach your girls to, put up their hands, ask questions, and not like, it's okay if you're wrong at the time. This is like, I think it's a very, very important thing. And that's a reason why less girls are in STEM. And that's a big thing now, that because they found this out through the studies, that they're using this to get more young girls into STEM, which is really, really important for the future. So yeah, this sort of getting rid of the idea of perfection, and that anyone who's ever succeeded at anything across the board, and this is a big generalization, but it's true, they have failed. Always.
So you guys, when you started with Skamp in Lithuania back in the 90s, you are like this fresh cosmopolitan band that was really sweeping the floor and bringing the fresh breeze into the youth. I'm very excited that we had the chance to work at the time. I remember that it was really difficult to kind of convince the radio and the TV to play your music, and to really show that, what you're bringing is needed. So how did you guys overcome all the rejections that were coming out from this sort of very, brick and mortar type of mentality? Can you share with us a few stories on that?
What served us really well, and me, was I had absolutely 100% belief in my, capabilities. I knew, this at least I was sure about, that I was going to do it, and I could do it, and I was meant to do it, and a good singer, and a cheer's the best, and this is how you have to be. But we also put in the work, we did all of that sort of groundwork that we needed to do while people were saying no, and that, that we were sort of sounded too strange and unusual, and nobody else sounded like it. But so then we, made our own merchandise. We didn't have much money, but any money that we got, we put it into T-shirts or stickers. This is like before social media, people. So, the way to sort of get exposure was either to play live or to get on TV. So that TV, that's that box thing that's in your parents' living room, so, with the antenna. So we had to get on there. So basically, we made it. We had this great idea, which was actually a pretty good idea, and we were. So I would have been about 16, 17 at this stage, and so we made some stickers, made some T-shirts. I think that was about it. And then we called up the stations and we said, listen, maybe you want to have us on for an interview because we're this band, blah, 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 and we have some merchandise. So you can make a competition, because in those days it was like, make it a competition, callers call in, all that stuff. So we did. Like a lot of the times we actually got our first foot in the door for those interviews through that. Very cunning of us. And so yeah, and at the same time we were constantly getting rejected. It was like for 2 straight years, nobody's radios didn't want to play us. Nobody wanted to sign us. Like, no one, no. It was just like, no. Wait. Yeah.
Oh my, 2 years. And what kind of rejections were these?
Yeah, so it was about 2 years. And the main rejections were that the masses wouldn't understand us. And then we were like, well, how can people ever sort of know if they like something if they never hear it? If you keep playing the same shite, like, well, that's sort of a vicious circle. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, mixed too many different styles. We were mixing languages. We didn't have any sort of style. We just, look the way we wanted to look on any given day. That sort of thing. Of course, what those people who were in their positions at the time, they didn't see that there was a whole new generation of post-independent kids who were the same age as us, who needed that voice. And so we got the one chance, and as soon when we were ready, and that's the other thing, you got to be ready. You have to do the groundwork. You really have to prepare, because then when you get the chance, you're ready, and you just grab it. And we grabbed that chance, and we got this solo sentence, because he said, okay, we're giving you the chance to go and put Summertime on the summer compilation. And then the song went on there, and then it just went, it's like within 1 week, and it became the most played song. He played it like twice in the hour, every hour, and it changed our lives. That was it. But the groundwork was done, and we knew who we were. We knew what we wanted to say, young as we were, because, we'd gone through the process. So that's why I really think it's important that people, especially, whatever you're trying to do, that you're ready to put in the groundwork. And it's not just about, that you really believe in what you're doing. And one thing that's really important is that you have to like what you're doing and like who you are. Because so many people won't like what you're doing, they won't like you. So, sorry, but it's true. So if at least you like it, then, hey, if they like it, that's great. If they don't like it, well, you still like it. So yeah, this is really important. Because, especially when you get a lot of exposure, people come at you from all sides, and helps when you know who you are.
So the Bloomerang game takes people through a certain process towards achieving a goal, right? When we are doing the deep dives and we choose which game we want to play, whether we want to build a brand or we want to create a product, or we want to more activate creativity and establish more harmony in the team, we choose a certain goal. And we have a really well-defined structure that I've perfected over the years doing workshops in various parts of the world. But once I created the game, I flipped the process around, meaning I got rid of what's obviously kind of creating these boxes and embraced the concept of flow to give freedom for the people. And that really, once we get into the mode of play, that unlocks creativity and releases a lot of energy, which we then capture and channel in other things that we want to achieve during the game. So your avatar, Riona, that represents courage, takes us to the creative stage of unknown horizons, right? We also have these sets of creative flow cards, which denote every stage in the creative flow process. And yours is really the one that takes to the unknown horizon. That's something that we experience after success, right? When new things open up and new territories are available for us. So how do you understand flow, and what is it for you?
Flow for me means following your intuition. And I think that the sooner we all get back to that and rediscover our intuition, because, nowadays it's so sort of like blanketed, not numbed, but it's like it's sort of somewhere deep down there, whereas it should be up here. Because it's those your intuition is like the feeling, or when you actually feel something. And then what we do is, a friend of mine, Christina Drija, she said it in this perfect way. She said, when you realize that you're in a bad relationship and you're supposed to like break up, and this is your intuition's here. And then it's like 5 years later, like we accept it. Point is that we have to get back to this, to trusting our intuition. And so for me, I would say that I was always very much in that zone, and that maybe I would say in hindsight that I feel like I should have maybe been more controlled in or strategies or whatever, that sort of thing.
So let's talk about the dips. We all have them. They are the states that really are not fun to be in, and they're very exhausting. At least for me, once I get there, it really takes a while to get out and restore my energy level and move forward. Unfortunately, that's something unavoidable as well. It's just with time you can learn to accept that these dips in the creative process or in life exist, and we just need to nurture ourselves when we are there, and so we minimize the bruises. How do you live through them?
I think that it's normal to feel, when you get in those ruts, when you get in those crisis moments and you just feel like nothing's going the way it's supposed to be going. Like what else do I have to do? Or like I need, I think the main thing is to sit with it. That's what I've learned to do. Sit with it, because if you know you're doing everything you can do, and and only you know that, then you can say, well, okay, fine. So I'm going to let it sit for a while. Because if you're doing nothing and then you're wondering what's happening, well, that's another story. But yeah, I would say to people who are creating and working really hard and it's just not going as fast as they think it is or should be, just to sit with it, because it'll come. If you're doing, again, the groundwork and all the other stuff. Because not everything happens. And also, very often those things happen when they're meant to, when you're ready for it to happen as well.
So let's talk a little bit about success, this concept that has so many flavors in our society and in different parts of the world especially. This is seen in so many different ways. One would want to make $1 million, another would want to, save the forests, and another person would be just ready to do anything they can in order to bring out their creative idea into the world. It's just that, and another person would be so happy to have stable, simple life, family life. And of course, you might also want to have that all. So for a creative like you, what do you think is the most important ingredient in having a successful creative career?
Well, substantial, long success, because that's the other thing. It's really, sounds cliche, but it's so true. It's easy to get a 10, let's say, in school once. It's hard to keep this level. It's, if you want to have a long career, you really have to know what you want to say. Like, why are you doing this? Like, what's the point here? This is true, because otherwise it really doesn't last very long. Most often, I've seen a lot of people come and go. So mostly it's because of that.
The youth, the new generation, they're so brave and confident and free and worldly. I have a lot of early 20s friends who are kind of going out into the world, doing what they love, and nothing stops them. And I love you guys. Keep on doing that. That's the way to live. Navigating creativity and making money, right, is a timeless challenge. I remember myself, I was always, trying to find what works in that way so you don't lose your dream, but at the same time, while the dream is not yet working, you need to figure out how to make a living, pay the bills, and invest in what you want to create. So what would be your advice for young people who are still finding their way in blending that doing what you love and making money?
Well, it's hard for me to, we started very young. So we didn't need that much money because we are still living at home and stuff. Yeah, it's tough. Facts are that we invested a lot of money, and any money we made, we always put it back into the thing. So we sort of put everything into that as opposed to, I don't know, buying ourselves a flat, for example. I'm talking about over years. That was a choice we made and it paid off in the end. But the thing is that, yeah, you might have to starve a bit in the beginning. You might be broke for a while. That's just the way it is. But I mean, there's not much advice to give there. It's like whether you are willing, if you're okay to do that or not. But on the other hand, there's nothing wrong, I don't think so, with having a day job or I don't know, if you're a photographer, for example, taking more commercial things and then doing what you really want to do. I don't think that's a problem. I think that's a good thing. I think you can learn things from that. I think that you learn also like a business savviness, when you do sort of running the two things. I think that you just need to, I think we need to lose the whole stigma also about like, well, you're not a real artist if you're, I don't know, playing at a wedding or something. I mean, I think this is nonsense because there was this stigma before, and I think wedding is like a beautiful event. And what's the problem if you're like performing your songs there? If people want, and the thing is, it's not like corporate gigs, which the same people who complain about those gigs, they play the corporate gigs, where those people don't really, I mean, you're there, you're not there, whatever. But a wedding as an example, they really want you there. So you're making their whole like best day of their life kind of thing. And so if you're doing that, at the same time you're working on your true, authentic art, well, then what's wrong with that? I mean, you have to hustle. I guess if that would be my advice, if you're asking me, what would I advise young people? Learn how to hustle. And hustle, because that's what you're going to have to do anyway. If you're getting into if you're doing what you love and you're in the arts, you're going to have to learn how to hustle. You're going to have to grow a thick skin, and you're going to have to learn how to hustle. And the faster you learn that and you have street smarts, you'll find your way. Because again, you're putting in the groundwork, you're preparing, and you're propelling yourself forward. So yeah, hustling is good. Meaning you take the jobs that you're offered, you pay your dues, you go through that whole process, as opposed to saying, oh no, I'm just going to make my thing and, wait for people to come and recognize me. It doesn't work that way. So yeah, that would be my advice. Learn how to hustle.
So Erica, you're a mother of 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, and you're growing them with your own modern parenting mindset in the context of Lithuania, where of course there are certain challenges. And by the way, Erica coaches parents on modern parenting. So you can book a coaching session with her through the Bloomerang website. And she's also releasing an online course about that pretty soon. So stay tuned and follow her on Instagram. So how do you, Erica, nurture courage in your children?
So nurturing courage, there's two things we can do with kids now when we raise them from when they're young. First thing is instilling them with a very built up sense of not entitlement. Don't misinterpret entitlement with self-confidence, or not arrogance, but self-confidence, self-belief, believing that they can do anything. I'm very clear when I tell my kids when they were growing up that you're the best girl, you're the best boy to me. And I always said to me, because as I explained to them, Josephine's parents think that, she's the best to them. So they understand they're not the best in the whole world, but they are the best. You're creating, they know you love them and that you think they're the best thing since anything. So this is important because then they go out into the world with this self-confidence and belief. And they know that if, this is also how I was brought up. I was brought up the same way. Then, my dad always told me, you can do anything. Just put your mind to it. And so instilling courage, I would say, starts with giving your children a sense of really, not a sense, but self-confidence, self-esteem. And then the second thing, which is equally important, is capability. To be able to do things for yourself. So that means helicopter parenting is out the window and just letting your kids learn how to do things for themselves. These two things are super, super important. So that when they go out into the world, into this, even, in 5 years, it's going to be even, completely different world. So they have at least those two things which will see them far, and I think that definitely builds courage, definitely gives you the strength and the self-belief to be brave.
So courage is one of the qualities, the superpower that it will enable any creator to go for their dream and really bloom inside out. And as we already talked, Erica's avatar, Rihanna, embodies this quality and teaches us during the Bloomerang game of how to nurture this quality within. And as we are developing a new quality, right, we need to always create that space inside to really allow that quality to grow and develop. And that always triggers this uncomfortable feeling that needs to activate inner growth. Erica, what do you think triggers the inner growth?
Yeah, the thing is that the internal growth happens usually, again, with time. Because when I was, 14, I was like that, I was brave, but like loudly brave, because I was also insecure because I was 14. So with time, we become, we're at peace with who we are and we know who we are. I think that just happens with time. And then, you're more sort of, you don't feel the need to talk a lot, or because you'd rather listen. And you feel secure enough in yourself to, be around people that you can learn from. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. I think that also says a lot when you want to actually be around people who are smarter than you and that you can learn from. I think this is really, really cool and a big sign of confidence. But I think that, talking about, again, about confidence or courage, about courage in general is definitely about, if there's one thing kind of that you can, if you want to create your dream, there's a lot of second lifers in the world now. This whole generation of people who got into jobs that they didn't really want because the parents told them to or whatever. And then at some point they realize they want a second life. And there's this saying that goes, we live two lives. And the second one begins when we realize we only have one. And so if there's one thing to say about courage, it's don't wait until that moment. Start, just do it now. Because as hashtaggy as it sounds, it's like you only live once. It's true. And it's short. And it's gone like that. So get on with it, guys. Go forth and create. What are you waiting for? Why are you looking at this reel? Go, shoo. Oh, love it. But I like talking with you about this.